Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to dive into a workflow that could totally shake up how you handle your machine learning infrastructure. We're talking about turning simple text queries directly into fully functioning MLOps pipelines. Let's jump right in. So, if you're an ML engineer, this probably feels a little too real. You know the drill, right? You're constantly bouncing between different contexts. You're in the Kubeflow UI over here, then you're hopping into a command line for Minio, then you're back in your code editor trying to get some YAML just right. It works, for sure, but it's fragmented and, let's be honest, it's a real drag on your workflow. Okay, now just imagine a totally different world for a second. What if you could wrangle all that complexity, all those different tools, just by talking to an assistant? No more jumping around. Just one single conversational spot for, well, everything.
And that brings us right to the heart of this whole thing, this idea of conversational ML ops. And we're not just talking about some simple chatbot here. This is about building a true command center for your entire ML lifecycle, all powered by natural language.
So what is it exactly? Well, to put it simply, it's about using a chat to manage all your MLOps stuff. You just type what you need to do. Hey, run this pipeline, compare these two experiments, go get me that artifact. And the system figures out how to do it. You know, the best way to think about this is like having a really smart dispatch operator. You tell the operator the high-level thing you need, and they know exactly who to call and what to tell them to get it done, whether that's Kubeflow, Minio, or even your documentation. You don't have to sweat the details, just the goal. All right, so how does this magic actually happen? I mean, how does a plain English sentence get turned into a whole bunch of complex infrastructure commands? Let's pop the hood and break down the anatomy of a request. Okay, so this diagram shows the whole journey from start to finish. Over on the left, you've got the user sending a message. That message then travels through some key parts, like the application logic and a function map, which then go and talk to your actual infrastructure. I know, it might look a little busy, but we're about to break it down into 5 really simple steps. It all boils down to these 5 steps. First, you type in your query. The app's brain, app.py, catches it. Now, this is where it gets really cool. The app sends your request to a large language model, which acts like a router. The LLM doesn't just try to answer you. Instead, it figures out your intent and picks the right tool for that specific job. Then, that tool gets executed, and finally, the results are passed back to the LLM to put together a clear, helpful answer for you. That's the key. The LLM is a router, not just a text generator. And speaking of that toolbox, it's not just a couple of commands. This assistant has a seriously powerful set of tools. It's got functions for talking to Kubeflow to handle pipelines, Minio for storage, Pinecone for grabbing documentation using RAG, and it can even spin up visualizations on the fly with Plotly. Okay, theory is great, but let's actually see this thing in action. We're going to walk through a super common real-world task, comparing the performance of 2 different pipeline runs.
So here's our prompt. And notice how natural this is, right? It's exactly how you'd ask a teammate for help. We're being really clear about the metrics we want, the 2 runs we're interested in, and which pipeline they came from. Let's see what the system does with this. The second we hit enter, the LLM gets to work behind the scenes. It parses our sentence, it understands that the intent is comparison, and it knows it needs to go fetch some data. It pulls out all the key parameters and calls the perfect tool for the job, compare pipeline runs. And bam, the tool runs, goes and grabs the right metric files from Minio, parses them, and comes back with this clean, structured data. We can see right away that the V-efficient net run is the clear winner here. This is a perfect example of turning raw data into an actionable insight instantly. And here's the final answer. See, the assistant doesn't just dump a table on you and walk away. It takes that structured data from the tool, it crafts a natural language response, and it clearly tells you the conclusion. It did both the comparison and the interpretation for you. Let's just pause for a second and really appreciate what just happened. The old way would have been, logging into a UI, hunting around for the right files, downloading them, then writing a quick script just to see the results. The new way? We typed one sentence. That is the massive difference between minutes of tedious work and seconds of conversation. So now that we've seen it work in a specific case, let's zoom back out and take a look at the complete architecture that makes all of this possible.
Okay, so this diagram is the full engine room. A query comes in from the top through the user interface. It gets processed by the core application layer right there in the middle. That's where our Python app and the LLM live. And then finally, the integration layer at the bottom is what actually does the work, connecting to Kubeflow, MinIO, and all our other services.
We can really just boil this entire system down to 3 core pillars. First, there's the UI. That's just your chat window. Second, you've got the application brain, that combo of our Python script and the LLM that does all the thinking. And third, you have the infrastructure integrations. These are the hands that actually go out and perform the actions on your MLOps platform. So what's the bottom line here? What does all this actually mean for you, the ML engineer? Let's wrap up with the key takeaways of having a new conversational teammate. First off, you accelerate everything. Tasks that used to take you minutes of clicking around now take seconds. Second, you seriously cut down on that mental drain from constantly switching between tools. You just stay in one place. Third, you can manage these incredibly complex systems using simple, everyday language. And finally, you democratize access. This makes it possible for everyone on the team, not just the hardcore engineers, to interact with the MLOps platform. They can check on a pipeline status or compare results just by asking a question.
And really, the big idea is this. We've spent years building more and more complex dashboards and UIs, but maybe the next big leap in usability isn't going to be another chart or another button. Maybe the most powerful, most intuitive interface is the one we've all been using our entire lives, a simple conversation. And I'll just leave you with this final thought to chew on. If you could abstract away all the tedious bits of MLOps, how much more time would you have for the work that actually matters? For building, for experimenting, and for innovating on the next generation of models? Thanks so much for watching.